This is America Jinn, one of the most notorious necro player in the game. And what's so special about him? I mean, other than being some kind of glorified RGB light, he understands the necro class better than anyone else, has set the world record for raid clears with Mighty Teapot, and has written the Scourge guide for Discretize, the most accomplished Fractal guild. His incredible knowledge of the class has made him one of the best theory crafter for necro in the game, and he has come up with new strategies to clear fractals and raids in a smoother manner. Do you want to be like America Jinn? Destroy bosses with your DPS, protect your allies with your skills, overcome mechanics with the versatility of Scourge? Then this video is for you. Now, thank you America Jinn. Bye now, you badass cutie patootie. SUNQUA Peak Challenge Mode is considered to be one of the hardest fight within Fractals of the Mist. Despite its difficulty, the loot obtained from completing this fractal daily is unprecedented. From mystic coins to an extra rare infusion, to precious fractal relics, completing this fight is so worth it, especially considering that it can be the shortest fractal in the game if you do it correctly. However, it is not an easy fight to complete, so let me introduce you to one of the strongest builds for this challenge mode. Condition Scourge. With it, you will be able to pump out extremely high DPS combined to an easy rotation. Your CC contribution will be off the chart, making the fight so much easier every time you break the bar. You will also heavily mitigate damage for you and your party thanks to Barrier. This build can adapt to every fractal situation for minimal DPS loss. Now let's talk about the build. Your armor, accessories and weapons should be Vipers. For the runes you have a little bit of a leeway. Nightmare runes produces the highest DPS and are considered the meta. However, if you do not like dungeons and you do not have a crap ton of deadly blooms from grinding Twilight Arbor, this may not be an option for you. Unless you have a full set of legendary runes, winkety wonk. Lich runes are a good budget option to replace nightmare runes if dungeons is not your kink. It does a little less DPS but generates much more life force, an essential resource for Scourge. Finally, tormenting runes can also be used but they cost mad bank. However, if you enjoy face tanking mechanics, the survivability granted by those runes might be worth the kidney you'll have to sell to obtain them. For weapons, you want to run Scepter Torch as your main set with Torment and Bursting Sigil. Now, if you want to make America Jinn respect you and be Omega PP, you will have to equip a Viper Warhorn with Paralyzation Sigil for big crowd control. If you do not bring a Warhorn, shame on your goat. Traits are fairly straightforward. Curses, Soul Reaping, and Scourge of course. One trait that is super important to bring is Desert Empowerment, as it gives so much barrier and this will help mitigate the insane damage that our favorite edgelord AI likes to yeet upon you and your party. If any other builds tells you to bring Sadistic Searing, shame on their good as well. For your utility skills, they will change from the light to the dark phase. The one skill to rule them all. The one that should never be changed is Blood is Power. It is your strongest skill in your Scourge toolkit, and it also grants you and your allies might. So, you know, that's mighty powerful if you ask me. In the light phase, you'd want to bring Blood is Power, Spectral Grasp for CC so that you can break the boss's Defiant bar without having to bring Golem. This allows you to bring Plague Lance for extensively higher DPS. Bring Signet of Undead for life force generation, and to attract all the chicas to you when you pop it on a down ally and insta-res that person like the hero you were meant to be. Do not run Shadow Fiend. AI just likes to murder it in cold blood. Alternative utilities to Spectral Grasp could be Bone Minions for life force generation and Trail of Anguish if you like to cover your allies in sand and eventually break stuns and give stability. Plague Lance can be tricky to use, but as long as you place it within 1.5 seconds of her finishing a dash, the full damage will hit, unless she's phasing or she goes invulnerable. During the dark phase, you'll have to swap out Spectral Grasp for Epidemic, as this is truly where the Scourge shines in the CM. By being able to use Epidemic from AI to the Sorrows, you will completely destroy those Sorrows without you or your party having to use CC on those Sorrows. This will allow you to have CC for when AI's Defiance bar shows up straight after that phase at 66 and 33%. You will however have to swap out Plague Lands for Flesh Golem to replace the CC that you have lost by removing Spectral Grass. Now, I want to talk briefly about crowd control, as this fight heavily relies on breaking AI's Defiance bar to maximize DPS and minimize the damage to you and your party. Therefore, whenever she is done rushing to the side of the arena, break her bar like it's hot, gamer. Like it's hot. To do so, on a Scourge, you want to cast a Shade and use F4 for the fear. Use Torch 5 for the knockdown, and then boom, swap to Warhorn and blow in her face with your skill 4. If you have a golem, yeast it at her, or if you have Spectral Grass, use it while standing inside of her hitbox. Ooh. Dominate the break bar meter while still doing Omega DPS. Totally forgot to mention that you need Toxic Focusing Crystals or Tuning Icicles for utility, and Cilantro and Cured Meat Flatbread for food. Now let's go! Despite the CM not having precast, you can do it with a Scourge by placing 3 shades next to the Mistlock, using your F5 to trigger Plague Sending and Soul Barbs. Then take your Mistlock, enter the arena, place a shade on her. Your main DPS burst consists of Bloodist Power, Torch 4, Scepter 3. As you cast your second Bloodist Power, use Desert Shroud F5 to trigger the Plague Sending trait, which will transfer the self-inflicted Torment and Bleed back onto the boss. As she dashes away, I put a shade on the new spot she dashes to. Once caught up with her, I use Plague Land and try to immediately break her Defiance bar to trigger the Exposed buff, which extensively increases my DPS. To break her Defiance bar as soon as possible, make sure to use Torch 5, then Weapon Swap to trigger the Paralyzation Sigil. Use F4, Warhorn 4 and Spectral Grasp. Once she's exposed, I focus on my main DPS skills. However, here I delay using F5 until Bloodist Power is off cooldown to maximize the effect of Plague Sending to transfer my Torment and Bleed back onto her. She dashes back into the center and we need to split up so as not to kill each other from the detonating AoE that are here. As a Scourge, I move away from her as 100% of my damage can be accomplished at range of 600 and 95% of my damage can be accomplished at 900 range. So it is not necessary for me to melee, and I leave that to melee classes like Firebrands. As we rejoin in the center, she phases. Our DPS was so high we skipped the air phase and went straight into fire. Someone places a portal to get us back to the center faster. While we move around the arena waiting for the meteorites to strike, I precast 3 shades on her while still staying in range of a lack. As the portal is open, I intentionally get hit by the meteor to get stacks of burning that I will then transfer back onto her using F5. I keep on DPSing her as I walk backwards and stick myself as close to the rock as possible. Interestingly enough, at the time of this video, you do not need to hide behind the rock to avoid the damage of the expanding AoE. She dashes away, and it is super important to once again break her bar to maximize DPS with the exposed buff. I use the usual CC skills, Torch 5, F4, Spectral and Warhorn 4. We get the exposed buff. I then DPS by prioritizing Bloodist Power into F5 and Scepter 3 as soon as they come off cooldown. She dashes back into the center and phases. As she phases, I place down a portal in the center to get back into the middle as fast as possible after being pushed to the side. We get pushed by the water phase and poured back to her in the center, and I place my shades and use F3 to mitigate the damage caused to me and my party with barrier. Here, one of us gets a tether, which gives increasing tidal bargain stacks. Once this stack reaches 10, it will explode and cause a lot of damage. Because this tether goes into a clockwise fashion, we position ourselves so that none of us get more than 8 stacks. This is why you see us going in front of one another to take the next tether of the previous person. She comes back down and dashes again. We have to rush towards her while still grouping up in the green circle to mitigate damage. It is of utmost importance to break her bar as fast as possible with the usual Torch 5, F4, Spectral and Warhorn 4 CC rotation for 2 reasons. 1, to interrupt the highly damaging water tornadoes, and also to get that exposed buff. Once her bar is broken, I once again prioritize my high damage skills, and then she dashes back into the center. It is time for us to split again. Once again, as a Scourge, I can do maximum damage at 600 range, so I leave the place to melee classes so that they can DPS in the middle. We rejoin in the center and we phase her and kill her. We all GG to reset our cooldowns, change our skills for the dark phase. For Dark Phase, you want to switch your Spectral Grasp for Epidemic and Plague Lance for Flesh Golem. As you precast, you place down 3 Shades to get stats from Sun Sage and F5 to get Soul Barb, and then take the Mistlock to regain your skills. The Golem stays on spawn, as I know the CC will be enough and I don't want it to die from that explosion mechanic. Once you reach the boss, start DPSing her and place a shade on the position she dashes to. Here you can use your CC skills for DPS as we don't want to break this bar. It is crucial that you and your group and all summons keep close to the wall so she doesn't dash to the other side of the arena. You can see that in this run, since the cats from Renegade were not properly placed, she dashed towards them. This results in us needing to run further. Once you're in range, place a shade on her and then keep DPSing from range until the explosion mechanic is over. Now a CC bar will appear, where you will use your normal CC skills, Torch 5, Warhorn 4 and F4. To maximize the time she stands still, try to break her bar as late as possible. The perfect moment to break her bar is when the raid AoE appears around her. This will be interrupted if you break her bar in time, otherwise you will take a lot of damage. After the CC bar breaks, keep on DPSing while again hugging the wall. You can see that this time we've succeeded as she dashes to a spot right beside us. Keep DPSing her until her HP drops to 66% and she dashes towards the middle. When she reaches the middle, you can continue your normal DPS rotation and load her up with conditions. Once the Sorrow appears, you and your Necro friend will use your Epidemic to kill it. In most cases, this will suffice. You should still keep an eye and put a shade on it in case it doesn't. When Fears starts getting close to you, keep away from them and DPS the boss mid-range. In this run, she dashed towards the wall, so we didn't need to worry about the Fears too much. It's here you want to spawn your Golem, as it is crucial that you break the CC bar. With good DPS, this should result in the boss phasing to 33% without dashing away again. The moment the boss phases to 33%, she dashes back into the middle. You want again to load her up with condies. However, it is important that someone else in your parties takes the crushing guilt debuff resulting from the tether mechanic between the guilt and the boss, as it lowers your damage output. Getting this debuff might result in Sorrows not being killed by your epi. Once she's fully loaded with conditions and the Sorrows appear, use your epi straight away. This should kill those Sorrows, granted that you have not taken the tether mechanic. And there you go, both epis have hit and the Sorrows are dead. Once Fears get closer in the boss phases, you can see that she didn't dash towards the edge of the arena. Be careful that you stay in mid-range until the Fears disappear or you will hurt yourself and your party if they explode on you. Here, it's yet again crucial that you break the bar, so use your CC skills on Golem. Try to again maximize the time she stands still by breaking her bar as late as possible, right when that raid AoE appears. With good enough DPS, you might kill her here. Okay, it is time for the awkward Rava time. I love this. Happy New Year, first of all. Thank you so much for watching my video, and it would mean the absolute world if you could leave a like. Honestly, one click and you help me get discovered and help me with YouTube partner and YouTube algorithms. So please leave a like, share that video, and if you like what I do, subscribe. I spend hours on those videos just to make them for you. I've left all my socials down below. I'm a pretty weird person, so following me is often fun. And I have a Discord full of the most wholesome people in the world. I'm live on Twitch almost every day, so follow me on there. And big up to America Jin and Scay for pretty much helping me with this video. They've been incredible, so go follow them. I've left their socials down below. Bye guys, love you!